to be talking about the importance of having something to do, something worthwhile outside of your 9 to 5 job. Because at the end of the day, we all have bills. You know, if you're watching this, you may be a older teen or a young adult or a fully grown adult with children or even grandchildren. I don't know who's watching, but the main thesis is build outside of your 9 to 5 job. Um, I had a coworker of mine, and we all work security, by the way, but basically we're down to 3 officers. We normally have 5, but it's only 3 because the building had caught on fire. I'm not going to say what happened, but basically they're not giving out hours like they normally would, and she was frustrated because she doesn't get as many hours as she used to. And in the back of my mind, um, I thought about it differently because I'm like, wow, she's frustrated because they're not allowing her to sell any more of her time. Essentially, that's what I'm thinking. I understand everybody has bills. She was frustrated because she was like, she has heavy bills. She has big girl bills. You know what I'm saying? I understand. But I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong. When you don't build anything outside of your 9 to 5, when you're so focused on chasing the next check and not pouring back into yourself and building skills or just finding a hobby or a deep interest to energize you, then all you have is your 9 to 5. All you have is, you know, trading hours on hours, overtime, getting OT. Now, I'm not gonna say there's anything wrong with getting overtime. I believe in getting overtime, but it has to be intentional, right? Your money has to be allocated somewhere. But the fact that a lot of us are so invested in our 9 to 5 jobs and we don't have anything outside of that to not necessarily fall back on, because you know everybody may not be an entrepreneur. You may not want to start a side hustle or start a business, but if your 9 to 5 is consuming your life, that's a serious problem. Your job is literally your income. That's literally what stabilizes your life. But your skills is what brings you freedom. Your skills, your interests, your passions, right? Something you're deeply interested in, that is what brings you freedom. So the question today is, what are you building? Just pause this video and just think about, what am I building? What have I been building outside of my 9 to 5, right? Because like I said, it's an issue if your 9 to 5 is the only thing you're focused on. There's nothing wrong with having a job. You know, like I said, your 9 to 5 is your stability, it's your income. But if you go home and if you're not working on your mind, if you're not reading, or if you're not working on your body, or if you're not learning a skill, then it's like eventually one day, if that company decides to let you go, or you happen to get fired, or you, I don't know, get into it with your manager or your supervisor, and you know, now it's tension and confrontation every day at work. It's like, okay, what are your other options? You haven't created any leverage for yourself, right? And now you feel like you're stuck at this 9 to 5 job. And I don't want that for any of y'all. So, you know, you got to just find you a hobby. This could be either a hobby, a deep interest. It doesn't necessarily have to be a business, but you got YouTube. You can create YouTube videos. You can create TikTok content. You might be into learning how to play piano. What else? There's multiple things. You can get on Twitch. You can stream. You can box. You can lift weights. You can read. You can draw. You can paint. You can make sculptures out of clay. It's all types of things to do. You might like driving cars or even working on cars, right? That's a skill, right? But not necessarily a skill where you have to make money, but that's something that you can find pleasurable, that takes your mind away from the 9 to 5 job, that expands your network outside of a 9 to 5 job. So just think about that. Truly sit down with yourself, write down just 2 or 3 things that if you're not building, that you could be building, that you've wanted to always build, right? And this may be, I don't know, you might want to join a run club. You might want to learn how to meal prep or just cook, period. So just understand your 9 to 5. I'm not saying quit your job. I'm not saying quit your job today. I'm not saying quit your job ever. But if trading your time is your only option of getting money, you're gonna feel like you constantly have to trade your life in order to get financially ahead. And we don't want that. You don't want to feel like you're trading your life for money, because ultimately your time and attention are your most finite resources, and you don't want to give them away to anybody, just anybody. So that's the main thesis of this video. Build outside of your 9 to 5. Your job is solely your income. It's not your life. You don't have to be consumed by your 9 to 5. Skills build freedom. Discipline builds the skill, right? And you can't build a skill without consistency. So consistency and discipline are like brother and sister, and those build the skills, and the skills build the freedom over time. So what are you building? I'd like to know. Drop it in the comments. If you like, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and we'll be back for some more.